Today we're going to talk about the different types of precipitation that we will receive really for this winter. Winter will be approaching here soon, and we could experience some sleet, freezing rain, and even some snow. And today we're going to talk about how we get those different types of precipitation, because we will potentially see some of that. We did see a lot of that going into February early of 2021. Now the first one we're going to talk about is rain. This one's relatively easy, especially even for us meteorologists to predict. Most rain always starts out as a snowflake. Again, in the top of the atmosphere, the temperature is below freezing, even in the summertime. But as that snowflake begins to fall, it will hit a warm layer, especially in summertime when it's like 80, 95 degrees outside. So it will melt relatively fast and fall down as a raindrop. It gets a full melt, and that's just our typical rain. Now, the next type is freezing rain. Again, it still falls as a snowflake, but it's going to hit a warm layer, and it's still relatively warm, where it will get a full melt. It won't be any partial melt. It will fully melt to a raindrop. Now, as it hits the surface, it is below freezing, 32 or below, right here at the surface. And as soon as that raindrop hits the surface, it will freeze on contact. This is how we get those ice storms, and they are the most dangerous type, as ice is relatively more heavier than snowfall is, and that's how we have downed trees and power lines and ice storms. So freezing rain is not really good. You don't really want that. Rather have snow or even sleet over the potential for freezing rain. Now, sleet is the next type of precipitation we'll talk about. Again, it still starts out as a snowflake, but it hits a relatively small warm layer. It's not as deep and also not as warm. It's right at freezing or just about 1 degree over. So what happens is it begins a partial melt. The snowflake itself is unique, and it forms only at the top of the atmosphere. When it hits that warm layer, it will begin a partial melt, and then again, once it hits the freezing layer at the surface, it's deep enough to where it can refreeze, and that's how you get that little ice pellet that'll fall at the surface. And again, this is still leads to some potential ice, especially along the roads and along trees. So they're, again, just as dangerous as freezing rain, but again, they fall as pellets and doesn't just freeze on contact with the surface it hits. Now, snowfall, this one, relatively easy. It's freezing from the top down to the bottom. From the cloud to surface, the entire area is below 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Freezing, relatively easy. Again, that snowflake, it keeps its form. There is no melting, and that's how it falls to the surface, and that's how we see that unique formation. Again, the snowflake itself is unique to be formed up at the top of the atmosphere as ice crystals begin to stick to one another, and that's how we get the unique snowflake. Again, we could see some of these potential precipitation going into winter as we'll start experiencing some freezing temperatures. We already experienced some of that so far, even in November. So I hope you learned a little something, and I hope everyone has a great day.